Hello, I'm the Bio Guy, and before we get into this medical mystery, please indulge my request that you like and subscribe. Okay, business done here. It was a bright and warm Sunday when Leo jumped out of his parents' car and went tearing off into the pond. The days had been so terribly hot, and though the young boy complained that the water felt warm, he splashed around for hours. His parents were ecstatic. How could they not be? They watched their son have one of the best days of his life. The only discomfort Leo had was when half of the pond seemed to shoot up his nose when he bailed out of an underwater handstand. But that happens, and we've all had that sensation, that sharp, almost ringing sensation when the water is thrust right up the nostrils deep into the nose. But the pain soon subsided, and Leo had probably forgotten about that pain when his headache started 2 days later. It was Tuesday morning when Leo first complained about the headache. His mother gave him an analgesic, a painkiller, and checked him for a fever. He had none. Kids get headaches all the time, she must have thought, and Leo was tired from all the exercise he's had from the last few days. That's the normal reaction to a very common situation. But in truth, what was going on in Leo's head was anything but common. There's no way Leo's parents could have imagined what was happening to their son. By that evening, Leo's headache had not abated. Indeed, it had gotten worse and was throbbing. He also found that he needed to shade his eyes from the light. Leo now had a low-grade fever of 99.8 degrees Fahrenheit. Leo did not sleep well that night. His fever had climbed to 102.5 by 2 a.m., and he was even crying out in pain. His parents' anxiety began to climb, but it was what Leo said in the morning that scared them into immediate action. "My neck is stiff." They ran to the car and drove to the hospital with the word meningitis pinballing through their minds. Meningitis is a terror word. It is inextricably linked in our public and private psyches with sudden decline and death. Meningitis involves the inflammation of the meninges, a membranous protector of the brain and spinal cord. At the hospital, Dr. Evans, a young ER physician, informed Leo's parents that meningitis was indeed a possibility, but the staff had taken appropriate actions by administering antibiotics and antivirals. Antibiotics are antibacterial. Theoretically, they would kill the bacteria that was infecting Leo's brain. Antibiotics can clear the infection, but the bacterium of greatest concern here, Neisseria meningitidis, produces toxins that are not neutralized by the antibiotics. If produced in sufficient amounts prior to the administration of the antibiotics, the toxins could still severely sicken and even kill a patient. So it's a matter of timing. The antibiotics must be given early in infection to stop the bacteria before they produce an overwhelming amount of the toxins. Antivirals can slow the progress of viral infections. Generally, viral meningitis is less of a concern than bacterial meningitis. The viral infections can be self-limiting. That is, the immune system can clear the infection without the aid of therapeutics. To determine if the infection was of bacterial or viral origin, the medical team performed a lumbar puncture to collect cerebrospinal fluid. So now it was an anxiety-prone wait for the parents as they anticipated news that their son was on the mend. But hours later, the doctors only reported that even more time was required for the medications to work. But with more time, Leo only began to get worse. He became unresponsive and later suffered a seizure, which was brought under control with diazepam. But Leo would never regain consciousness. The 10-year-old boy would eventually pass away. But why didn't the antibiotics or the antivirals work? How could he have died despite such aggressive care? The truth is that Leo was neither infected with a bacterium nor a virus. While the medical team was treating horses, Leo was infected with a zebra. That zebra was a protozoan, specifically Naegleria Fowleri. It is commonly known as the brain-eating amoeba. It causes a severe disease called primary amoebic meningoencephalitis. Naegleria Fowleri infections hit the two ends of the probability spectrum. The infections are exceedingly rare. The CDC reports that only 167 cases have been documented in the United States between 1962 and 2024. Less than 400 have been documented globally in the same time period. Think of all the people that have gone swimming in warm bodies of fresh water where Naegleria lives, and the percentage of bathers that have been infected is vanishingly small. But For those that are infected, even with treatment, the fatality rate is approximately 97%. Surprisingly, Naegleria fowleri is quite common and is found on all continents with the exception of Antarctica. Its habitat is warm bodies of fresh water such as rivers, ponds, lakes, and even community water systems. Human infections with Naegleria occur in waters with temperatures greater than 78 degrees, and as a result in the United States, the majority of infections occur in the warmer southern states. But the protozoan is on the move as the climate warms. Even Minnesota, renowned for its cold winters, has seen an infection in one of its 10,000 lakes. Morphologically and physiologically, Naegleria fowleri exists in three forms. One, a cyst form, which effectively allows it to hibernate and survive when warm water turns cold or the nutrient conditions are poor. Two, an amoebic trophozoite form, which means feeding animal form. And three, a flagellated form, which allows it to swim in the water column and expand its reach for prey. When active in warm waters, its main diet is bacteria, which it finds at the bottoms of rivers, lakes, and ponds. In its trophozoite form, it extends pseudopodia to ooze its way through the muck towards the bacteria, spurred on by a trail of chemicals coming off of the bacteria. Those pseudopodia then surround the bacteria, and the prey is engulfed and consumed. But when Naegleria transforms into its flagellated form, it becomes more likely to share space with swimming humans. But if Naegleria is so common and so many people swim in waters where Naegleria exists, why is infection so rare? The answer is that it's hard to be infected with Naegleria. You can swallow Naegleria, get it into your ears and minor scrapes, and you won't be infected. The route of infection for the brain-eating amoeba is extremely specific. Contaminated water must carry the Naegleria as deep into the nose as is possible, back to the nasal mucosa. This doesn't happen with basic swimming, but does occasionally occur when jumping into water, crashing while water skiing, and other activities that promote high-velocity movement of water into the nose. At the nasal mucosa, Naegleria fowleri will find a protective mucus layer and an epithelial layer. But Naegleria fowleri expresses proteases, enzymes that digest proteins, that digest right through the tight junctions which stitch together those epithelial cells. This allows the amoeba to slip past the epithelial layer. And it does so without killing the cells or setting off the immune alarm. In its amoebic trophozoite form, the protozoan begins to crawl along the neurons. From the neurons, the amoeba has a straight shot up to the olfactory bulb of the brain. But what about the bones of the skull? Why don't they stop the amoeba from reaching the brain? Well, the only bony structure in the way of the amoeba is the cribriform plate, a thin and porous structure. The pores are called foramina, which allow the neurons of the olfactory nerve to extend into the olfactory mucosa. These foramina are literally gaps in the defenses, but without it, the olfactory nerve could never reach the mucosa, and we wouldn't be able to smell. So evolution has left a back door for Naegleria. What about the much vaunted blood-brain barrier? The blood-brain barrier is basically a thick wall around blood vessels. But the amoeba is not moving along blood vessels, nor does it need to enter them. The amoeba rides along the nerves straight to the brain, bypassing the blood altogether. The blood-brain barrier is like a double lock on a house's doors, but Naegleria goes through the open windows. So you can wade in Naegleria-contaminated water with no risk of being infected. Only if you get contaminated water forced deep into your nose, up to the olfactory mucosa, do you risk infection. But why does infection with Naegleria fowleri carry such a high fatality rate? Primary amoebic meningoencephalitis, the disease PAM, is a product of two major players: the Naegleria itself and the innate immune response. Once Naegleria fowleri passes through the cribriform plate, it is in the brain and does direct damage, bursting or lysing cells enzymatically and digesting them via phagocytosis. Without a vaccine or prior infection, the adaptive immune system puts little in the way of the amoeba. So it is up to the innate defenses, the largely untrained, non-specific branch of our immune system, to defeat the invader. Molecules on the amoeba are recognized by macrophages and microglia. This causes a release of pro-inflammatory cytokines. And the response is massive. An influx of fluid and neutrophils result in vast increases in intracranial pressure, and the innate immune system performs a last desperate act to kill the amoeba. They effectively act like atomic bombs, where the bombs widely spread heat, power, and radiation, destroying everything it touches. The microglia and the invading neutrophils spread non-specific chemicals like reactive oxygen species, free radicals that kill friend and foe alike. All this results in meningitis, necrosis, hemorrhage, and the loss of brain function. Almost invariably, the process continues until the death of the patient. So what can be done about this? The answer is paradoxically very much and very little. The patient can be physically chilled to slow the amoeba and the inflammation. Fluconazole and amphotericin B, called amphoterrible for its side effects, affects the amoeba's membrane. Miltefosine has amoebicidal activity. Dexamethasone helps reduce inflammation. And there's more. But treatment rarely works. Again, the fatality rate is about 97%. So why is that? A lot probably has to do with delayed treatment. Physicians first treat horses, and PAM looks and sounds like meningitis. Without a high index of suspicion for PAM, it would be irresponsible to treat the zebra that it is. You want your physician treating the illness that is likely, and in this case, the symptoms are best explained by meningitis. But if it is PAM, and the medical staff does not hear that the patient has recently received a shot of warm water up the nose, valuable hours and days will be spent treating meningitis. So this argues for obtaining detailed histories. It can save time and lives. So nothing in this video is intended to be medical advice. The video is for informative and entertainment purposes alone. Medical decisions can only be made between a patient, his or her caregiver, and trained medical professionals. If you feel that you or a loved one might have PAM, seek emergency medical assistance immediately. Thank you for watching.